All right, welcome to Separation Nation. Coming to you, podcast episode number 27, I think. Let me mention this. We just shot and released episode 26 with local entrepreneur, restaurateur, Valdosta chef Randy DeCoudros. If you haven't seen that, make sure it is worth the download or worth going on YouTube and watching that. We pretty much just turned him loose and let him do his thing. Learned a lot about the restaurant business, about being an entrepreneur in that space. Just fascinating. I've already went back and rewatched it, even though I was here for the podcast, one of my favorite podcasts that we've done. So that's episode 26 with Randy DeCoudros. So anyway, excited today to come to you, talk to you about something very important, but I wanted to real quick kind of plug and show you, we have our new White Buffalo t-shirts online to purchase. We got them in black, we got them in blue, I think. I think one of the first 5 or 6 episodes we did an episode on the White Buffalo and kind of the symbolism behind that. If you've ever studied buffalo, most of them are not white. It's very rare that you see a white buffalo. But the thing that stands out about a white buffalo is the fact that it stands out from the herd. It can't blend in because it looks different. It's everything about the white buffalo is different from the rest of the herd that it's in. And we kind of have taken that on as our mascot here at Separation Nation, because we are always talking about the separators, the things that separate the super successful from everybody else. What is it that's different? What looks, smells, or sounds different about super successful people from everybody else? And the big thing right off the bat is successful people do not have a herd mentality. They're not going with the flow. They're always against the grain. They always stand out. They always think differently, act differently. Everything they do, they approach from a different mentality in a different way. And that's kind of why we've adopted the White Buffalo as our theme or mascot, or if you will. And so we had these shirts printed up, and Love 'em Soft, Tri-Blend, Next Level shirt. We got some caps on the way. You can purchase these at agentsresourcegroup.com. Go in. We've got a store set up there, and you can purchase them, ship them out to you, get them to you pretty quick. But anyway, we're excited about those. But you better hurry. The supplies are limited because I keep taking them and wearing them.
It'll be ARG Gears, the button. It says ARG Gear.
Yeah, ARG Gear. And
you click when you go to the website.
So anyway, what we're talking about today, Big Jet?
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about relationships, and at this point, I know a lot of people have probably heard us. We've said this on the podcast before, but it's extremely accurate, and that is that, you become the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So, whoever you invite into your environment, into your culture, that's going to have an effect on that environment, okay? Just on the upside here, kind of coming out of virus being on everybody's mind. If you let somebody in your home that's got a virus, chances are if you're intermingling with a sick individual, you're going to get sick. Well, listen, mental health's the same way. If you're intermingling with a person that's extremely negative, that's always downtrodden, their mentality is just extremely negative, well, that stuff's going to rub off and get off on you. If you're hanging around people, if you hang around 5 broke people, guess what? You're going to be the 6th one if you're not already broke when you're hanging out with them. But on the flip side of that coin, if you're hanging out with 5 wealthy people, as long as you hang along for the ride, you're going to end up being the 6th wealthy person in the group, okay? And that's just, it's the law of the universe. Whatever you surround yourself around, in a sales environment for nearly 10 years, going and selling financial products and insurance to people in their homes. Sometimes we'd go in some houses that wasn't very clean, okay? Some houses that would just be cockroach ridden, to be honest with you. And if you've ever been in a cockroach infested house in the summertime, that is a smell that you cannot describe to nobody unless you smelled it. But we've got a service to provide for people. And I remember coming home certain days after spending 3 or 4 hours, in a hot house, getting a little sweaty, and I got my dress clothes on, my suit on, and walk in, and my wife would be like, "What in the world is that smell? Go straight to the shower, burn napalm your clothes." Just my goodness, get undressed before you come in the house. It's so bad. Well, that stench on me came from being in an environment that was conducive to have cockroaches living in it, nastiness. Okay. And that smell got off on me. And I think if we would stop and think about the people that we spend our time with, the relationships that we continue to have and put up with a lot of times in our life, and a lot of times people do that out of familiarity. They know that, what they're in is a negative situation. They know that person's negative. Maybe a family member, maybe a friend, whatever the case may be. But due to familiarity, the culture of that, they keep it around. They put up with it. They deal with it. And I just think people have to understand, you have to stop, take a realistic view and take audit of your circle. The same way you got to audit those relationships. You got to sit down and look, okay, is this relationship adding to my mental health, my happiness, my prosperity? Is it strengthening my relationships, or is it having the opposite effect? Is it tearing them down? Is it taking me 30 minutes to shake the funk off of me, when I get out of Sally Joe's presence? And so many people, they just live life in such a way that they just tend to put up with these relationships, and it really has a negative impact. And so today we want to just, address some of those things, give you some tips on how to overcome those relationships, because everybody's got a destiny. Everybody has, there's a plan for your life, and hopefully you've got goals and you're moving towards those goals and you're trying to make that dream work, the dream that you have for your life. But if you're entertaining all these people, that are negative around you, you may be sharing your dream with them. Even the scripture talks about casting your pearls before swine, to be careful. In other words, don't throw precious things out to a bunch of pigs, because they're just going to trample on it. And I've been around people before, and you got to be careful. You can't share your vision with everybody, because people don't understand where you're going. They don't understand what's on your life, and you start throwing that stuff out there, and they'll say, "Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you'll never be a millionaire. Or you'll never have a company that size. Why would you want to do that? Just stay small. Just be happy. Be content with where you're at in life." And all this stuff that's just complete bull, And listen, that's a dream killer. So make sure that you've got and surrounding yourself with people that are going to nurture those relationships. If you got, 10 no-getters in your life, fire them, kick them out, and replace them with 10 go-getters. Put people around you that's going to encourage you and support you, in your dream, in your vision, and bring resources, because when you have the right relationships around you, those are strategic relationships. Those people can add to your life. You need to be adding to instead of taking away. And we should never be afraid to delete a negative out of our life, because when we delete a negative, we've just made room for a positive.
Well, everybody's got that one or two particular people in their life that when you see their name come up on your phone, or you see their number, you get a feeling before you ever even talk to them. You get a feeling. You either get a heaviness or you get an excitement, because you know that when you answer that call, that feeling's even going to more intensify. Certain people's calling you just to gossip. Certain people's calling you just to dig. Now, usually the person calling you just to gossip is going to spend half the conversation gossiping, and then the other half trying to get information from you so they can talk about you. And so, the most important tool I have a lot of times is that little button on the side of my phone. When I see a particular name, just hit that button, just ignore. And because I know that, okay, I can take this call right now, and it's probably going to change the trajectory of the rest of my day, because it's going to put me in a good mood or it's going to put me in a bad mood. And that don't mean I'm not going to call them back later or whatever. A lot of times I'll call if it's somebody that I don't want to be rude to or whatever. I'll call and say, hey, I know I missed your call earlier today. Thought I'd call you back real quick. I'm sitting in the line here or something. I always call them when I know I'm only going to be able to be on that phone call 3 or 4 minutes, but I've returned that call. I've met the obligation. Not that there is an obligation, but I've met that need to call them back without having to get into a long, drawn out conversation. And then there's certain people that I may delete. I may ignore their call, and then there's certain people I may delete out of the entire address book, because I get to the place in my life that I know 2 things. Life is all about people and places, who you surround yourself with and where you're going. And the places that you reach in life, ultimately, the places that you're headed to in life, are most of the time determined by the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely important. You trying to entertain people that's not meant to be in your circle is like, it's like a 747 trying to take off with half of the metal on the left wing flapping in the wind. It creates drag on your destiny, and so, listen, I'm not oblivious to the fact that for some of you, this might be cause for some hard choices. In some cases, it could be your mother and your father, could be your sister or your brother, could be people in your family. And all I can tell you to navigate could be your spouse. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're certainly not sitting here telling you that you're going to have to just, not honor your father and mother and cut them off or go divorce your spouse. But you do have to, for your own mental health at a certain point, it might be at a certain level for some people. And I've seen it at levels where people have to make some tough decisions. Well, and you might have to love some people from a distance, is what I'm saying.
And here's the big thing: if you take an audit of your circle and you realize that the people that you're surrounding yourself with are all similar in traits, maybe look at yourself, because a lot of times you've attracted people just like you. If you don't like the people around you, a lot of times you don't have to say, hey, I'm not talking to you anymore. Hey, I'm going to break up with you. As you change, as you grow, as you become different, as you work on you, a lot of times those relationships will take care of themselves. If you live a party lifestyle and you want to get out of that party lifestyle, just quit partying. And guess what? These people that party all the time, they'll quit hanging around with you. You don't necessarily have to break up the relationships. But a lot of times in my life, when I looked around at my circle and I realized, hey, this person's always angry, always pissed off, or, I hang around a bunch of assholes. Well, maybe I'm an asshole sometime. Maybe I'm attracting this into my life. And so, as we work on ourselves, a lot of times these circles, they'll fix themselves. But this is what I will say, Justin. If I've got 6 people sitting at my table, and they're in my circle of influence or whatever, I'm looking at these people because they've got their feet under my table. Well, I want to know, what are they bringing to the table? What are they putting on the table? And as I bring more to the table, a lot of times I see these people changing. This person's replaced with this person, and these people's replaced with this person. Even in business, you and I, how many times have we sat down and we've looked at people that are producers, but the production that they bring to the table, a lot of times it isn't worth the aggravation that they bring with it as well. And we've said it many a times, they don't fit our culture, or they don't fit here. Yeah, we make money based on our relationship with them, but it's just not worth all of the pain and the turmoil and the aggravation and the backbiting and the lack of trust that you have to deal with it. And we've moved people out of our organizations simply because they didn't fit, even though they were producing, but we've never done that where we've regretted it. It's always been, okay, we're going to move this person out and 3 more show up to replace that. And that's just how life is, as we work on ourselves, as we change, as we grow, as we evolve. And that's the big thing about life. 90% of the people in this world, and we've talked about wandering generalities or whatever, you say that a lot better than I do, but 90% of the people in this world that you are around are not evolving. They're not changing. They're the same person they were when they 10 years ago. They'll be the same person they are 10 years from now. But if you're changing and you're evolving, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably changing and evolving, one of those people that are always trying to grow and get to that next level. Listen, the people around you will continuously be changing, because as you grow, you're going to outgrow a lot of people in a lot of places in life.
If you've never lost any friends, you're not growing, period. You know, it reminds me of there's a little cartoon graphic meme I shared one time on social media and did a little write up with it. But it's a picture of a caterpillar sitting across the table from a butterfly. And the caterpillar looks at the butterfly. He's all offended and says, "You've changed." And the butterfly looks back at him and says, "Well, I'm supposed to, you know."
Right.
And so, I mean, that anything that's growing is going to be changing. Anything that's changing in life will always challenge you, but not only challenge you. As much as it challenges you, it will challenge the people around you. I can think of multiple stories right now where, as I've continued to grow and expand, and as a person, and as I hope you all that are listening are too, always trying to, get up every day and searching for that best version of yourself as you continue to grow. But I can recall certain stories in life where people have gotten offended with me because I advanced. And by my advancing, what they get offended at, it's not so much me. What they're offended about is the fact that they didn't advance along with me. They didn't grow with me. And what it does is that highlights the ineptitude, the lack of in their own life, the lack of will, the lack of massive action. Listen, those people had the same opportunity that I did. You have the same opportunity that other people have. But what boils down to is, are you putting in the work on yourself personally? Are you putting in the work in your career, in your business? You can't get ticked off at somebody that's been putting in the work for a decade and you've been there a year and you don't get the same promotion that they do. And so that growth is going to always bring a highlighter, a magnification to relationships. And you got to understand that you're going to lose some people along the way, and it's normal. It's natural. Some relationships are lifetime, but they're very few. I'm going to just tell you right now, very few lifetime relationships. Most relationships you're going to find in your life are seasonal. They're there. And it doesn't mean that it was all for none. It doesn't mean just because you might have been real close with an individual, had great times, great communication, a great relationship for 3 or 4 years of your life, and now you hardly see that person no more. It doesn't mean that there was no value there. It just simply means that relationship served you. It served your life for a season, but it no longer serves you anymore. And if people aren't bringing happiness and increase and prosperity and love and all the positive things, the pure, the powerful, and the positive, if they're not bringing and adding that to your life, you need to grow to a place in life that it's not worth it for you anymore. You need to, again, audit your circle. You need to look around your boat, your ship that you're in, that being representative of your life, and look around to make sure that everybody is holding a paddle, as we say in South Georgia, and not a drill. You look back there and somebody, you paddle and you think everybody on your team's paddling, and some little old MF's back there with a drill trying to put holes in your boat, okay? And so everybody's not for you. Everybody that's in your circle's not for you. There's some wolves in sheep's clothing. There's going to be some haters that get up in there close to you, okay? As long as you know that and you understand that, you can deal with it. But don't be so naive and oblivious that you think everybody does have a paddle and everybody's, waving the banner of your ship and going your direction, because it's not the case. And life will teach you that sometimes.
Well, and a lot of times it just comes down to something as simple as this. You look at certain people in your life and you just ask yourself, is my life better because they're in it, or is my life worse because they're in it? And like I said earlier, a lot of times as we work on ourselves, as we look, I've always said that about life. I am in life where I'm supposed to be based on my actions, the things I've done, the things I've been through, and how I have reacted to those circumstances and situations. I'm where, maybe I'm not where in life I want to be, or I'm sure not where I'm going, but I'm in life I'm at this place in my life because of the decisions I've made and the people I've chosen to surround myself with. And if you want to get extreme, look at the people that are in prison today because they chose to spend a Friday night with the wrong group of people, or spend a Saturday night with the wrong person or family member. I mean, that's an extreme thing, but if you look at that and put it in your world, maybe you are where you are because of the people that you continuously surround yourself with. We go back to this example, the white buffalo. You got to be willing to stand out and be different and not necessarily go with the herd. Think differently and you'll become different. And as you grow, as you do that, you'll see people being replaced in your life. The universe does it for you. God does it for you. Whoever you believe in, that takes care of itself a lot of times. A lot of people's asked me before, how do I put better quality people around me? Well, you become better quality and you attract those type people around you. What I know, maybe you're not in the financial situation that you want to be in. Well, you got to surround yourself with people who are financially stable, who are in good financial shape. And you say, well, how do I get to that place? How do I get those people to talk to me? How do I get those people to hang around with me? Find a way to bring value to them, because if you can bring value to people, that will attract you to those people. So as you begin to grow and work on yourself, you'll bring value to people. And as you do, you'll see your circle changing and correcting itself. But what you got to be careful is for those, those leeches and those people that just drain your energy, the time killers. People that you look at the phone and you're like, okay, I'm fixing to have a 45-minute conversation about nothing. I don't think I'm going to take this call right now. I'm going to send a text, say, hey, I'm busy, I'm tied up. I mean, it's not rude. It's just life. You control your destiny, and you do that by the things you give attention to, where you put your energy and your time.
Well, I don't know how many times I've seen this even in our own company, people that we employ in the financial services industry. But I mean, especially I see it a lot of times with younger guys, people in their, early to mid 20s, sometimes even late 20s. It just seems, they're still trying to figure some things out in life, figure out some relationships, and one particular case, I was talking to a guy weeks and weeks ago, and he was doing so great, just to turn the corner, starting to have some big weeks, making some big money, kind of getting in a rhythm, getting in a flow with his career and things that he had going on. And then he went on a trip, went off on vacation for a week and a half, and, went with a group of people and came back from that trip and was basically just like a whole different person. I mean, it had knocked the wind out of his sails, caused self-doubt. Guy was just kind of defeated, doubting his abilities after he'd had multiple weeks that were very successful and very productive. And I started talking to the guy, and I just said, listen, maybe it's time to consider that you need to change your group of friends. You're getting older. You're not in high school anymore. You probably don't need to be going off on, week party binges at the beach or, whatever it is you do. And I mean, these relationships are obviously not helping you now. And of course, He 100% agreed with me. But I have seen on multiple occasions people literally do something as intermittent as take a trip with the wrong group of people, and it shipwrecked their whole doggone career. And that may sound crazy, but just that little bit of exposure. Listen, you can get exposed to a disease that can take you out. You could have been fine the weeks before. But again, if you entertain a parasite, if you entertain that negativity, especially depending on the mental strength of the individual, I mean, it can wreck careers. It can wreck relationships. Listen, if you're married in a relationship, you can get around the wrong group of people and find yourself divorced because you get around people that, encourage you to cheat on your spouse or whatever. I mean, you can end up in some bad environments. Culture is important. Culture is everything. Depending on what the culture is going to depend on what's going to grow in your life. There's certain atmospheres and cultures that are conducive for even like viruses to grow in. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if your culture and your environment is conducive for this negativity, if it's conducive for these people. So, I mean, you just, again, not only audit your circle, but audit your own life. What are you attracting? What in you is attracting those type of people? What do you need to fix inside of yourself if you're finding that you're just attracting a ton of trash, just to be honest with you? And it's just people that just have no good, do no good, got no goals, got no plans for the future. If you're attracting those kind of people, you might need to stop and say, listen, what do I need to change inside of me that's attracting and bringing these type of people into this environment? And also understanding one thing I've had to learn in life is kind of the flip side of that is if you've had some success, if it, for whatever reason, looks like you got it going on to a certain extent in your life to other people, and you're a charismatic type individual, it's kind of like being a magnet. A magnet is non-discriminatory. I mean, it can, if you get in its field of range, it can pull in key things that you need that are helpful, that are useful, that's tools that you can use. And it also can snatch a piece of rusty scrap metal from across the yard and snatch it too. So you've got to be, you've got to be wise with this, people. And you got to understand that, and I made this mistake early on, years ago, letting people that was a little bit kind of starry-eyed and fascinated, because we do a ton on social media, and it looks like we make a ton of money and we got all this going on and we're traveling here and there. And there's, and to this day, still steady people tries to weasel into that circle because they want to get something out of the deal. And you just got to be real careful. It don't mean that you're, that you're overly cynical with people. You don't want to get there either, but you also got to be careful, because that's great that you're a person that attracts folks to your life. You can take that, turn it, utilize it as a tool to help these people and monetize it to a certain extent. There's a lot you can do, but you also got to realize when you've snapped, your field of influence has pulled some people with wrong motives, some trash in there, and you got to distance yourself from that too.
Well, one thing you were talking about earlier with the guy that went off on a week-long vacation with his friends and came back a totally different person. One thing I've learned in life is your state. Said it before, your state will determine your fate. And that guy had found himself in a flow where he had a good week, followed by another good week, followed by another good week, and he was starting to stack those weeks. And we talk about that a lot in business, is stacking those weeks, stacking those wins, and that becomes a flow for you. You get in a rhythm, you get in a flow. It's like anything else. You sit down and you try to work on something, you try to write something, or you try to complete a task, but you just can't never lock in, can't never click in, can't ever get into that flow. Once you hit a flow state, you got to protect it with everything in you. There's been a lot of times when the creative juices started flowing, my phone would ring and I just ignore it. And it might be somebody I need to talk to, but hey, I may have an hour in this flow state where I'm going to get more done in this hour than I would in 8 hours, because I'm in that flow state. I'm in that state of mind. I've got the creative juices flowing. Same thing with business and career. Listen, if you've struggled week after week after week, and all of a sudden you've stacked 3 weeks on top of each other, and you've hit a flow, you've hit a rhythm, you got to guard that with everything in you. I wouldn't go to the beach. I wouldn't go on vacation. I'd cancel everything to protect, to keep that flow going until my financial situation changed enough to where a week's not going to hurt me, a week's not going to cripple me. But what happened with him and happens with so many people, you just got in a rhythm, you just got in a flow, and then you interrupted it. And then you got off with negative people that they're not like the person you're wanting to become. They're like the person you used to be, and you fall right back into that state. And now, instead of being in a flow state and a productive state, you went from a flow state to a no state. You got to just sitting out there, just withering away. And now you're trying to get back. You're trying to get it back. Well, listen, just as long as it took you to build up that momentum the first time, it's going to take you that again. So you got to really protect those flows when you're in them. You got to. The people around you will pull you out of that in a minute.
Well, and if you're listening or watching it today, you might say, well, Justin, I mean, what should our circle look like? Who should we be around? How do we replace the no-getters with the go-getters? Okay. And it's listen, it's really simple as this. I mean, we can and won't legislate this is the type people specifically you need to be around. Obviously, that'd be moronic. But just in general, you need to be surrounded by people that are at the bare minimum on the same path that you're on, goal minded, goal oriented. They know they have a purpose. They're moving towards it. Okay. So the bare minimum qualification for being in your circle at all is they're headed in the same direction you are. Okay. Same direction. They're positive people. They're motivated people. They're not people that's going, tell you to sorry off when you should be working, or people that's going to talk trash to your dream or your vision for your life. They're people that are going to be supportive, that are going to lift you up and encourage you. They may never do what you do. They may never want an organization as big as you want. They may never want a marriage like you want. They may not want those things for themselves, but they, at the bare minimum, don't tear you down. They encourage you in your dream and in your vision. So at the bare minimum, you want people that are on the same path, like-minded, going where you're going. And also inside that circle, you need to make sure that you have people that are already where you want to be. If you don't get nervous sometimes in your circle because you've got just a giant of a person in that group, somebody you really look up to that's accomplished the things that you want to accomplish, then your circle's too small. You got to expand it. You need something in there that stretches you, that helps you take the limits off your thinking, that tears the box down that society tries to put us in, and that can really say, look at you and say, listen, I did this. You can do it too. Let me help you. Because you need a person that's there to help you when you get downtrodden, when it's a difficult time, to help reach their arm out and to pull you where you need to go. And so, I talk about this in some other videos I've done on our YouTube channel, but, sharks and remoras. And if you've ever watched National Geographic or, Discovery Channel or any of these type of shows, you've seen pictures of sharks, huge, majestic sharks, okay, swimming through the ocean. But if you ever look close enough, you'll notice that there's some little tiny fish that attach under the belly of that shark, and they're just stuck to him, okay? They're riding the momentum of the shark. They're riding the momentum, the trajectory that it's creating, okay? They're like little old sucker fish. They just sucked right up on the belly of that shark. And a remora is a parasite, okay? And the function of that, because there was years I couldn't ever figure it out. I thought, well, they just like riding on the shark, that must be it. And I had never really heard any further explanation on it. And I started studying this years ago. And I was actually getting ready for a keynote speech, and so I did as much research on this topic as I could. But the reason that the remora attaches to the shark is because as the shark is going through the ocean and he comes up on prey, goes in for the kill, for the hunt, whenever he bites in to his meal, his prey, bits of food actually escape. If you've ever seen a shark attack something, it's not all nice and pretty, okay? And so bits of food go around as that shark continues to propel forward. Bits of food move past the mouth, past the gills of that shark, and as he's going forward, the remora is able to eat the excess, the crumbs, the things that the bits of food that come all around the mouth of the shark. And they get a free meal that way. So they're getting a free ride and a free meal. But let me tell you how shitty the remoras are, okay? They are satisfied even if they don't get none of the food. Another function of the remora is they will actually eat the excrement, the crap, the shit, to just put it real plain, since we can do that and it's our podcast, from the shark, okay? And what I want you to understand is what people are you allowing, what people are just around you for a free ride? What people are around you for a free meal? They're not willing to do none of the work. They're not willing to put in none of the effort. They don't have the courage to go in for the kill. They don't even want to go work for their own food. And they're such a low-level person that they're willing to eat shit. And so that's my question for you today. Are you a shark or are you a remora? And if you are a shark, and you're out tackling your goals and you're going after your dreams and you're taking down the prey and you're biting things in two and you're crushing every obstacle and you're moving forward, how much faster could you be? How much more could you accomplish? How much further could you go if you would shake off the remorse in your life? If you'd shake off those negative things, those negative Nancy's always in your ear. Oh, you can't take that prey. That's bigger than you. You can't go. You can't swim this fast. You can't go that far. You're listening to them. You're putting up with them, and they're sitting there getting a free ride and a free meal off of you. Now, I'm coming to tell you that you're not going to avoid the remorse in life. They're going to always continue to come. But again, in auditing your circle, you need to make sure that on a consistent basis that you're not so focused on propelling forward that you don't occasionally look back and see who's attached their self to you. Because as achievers and people that are like-minded, and if you're listening to this podcast, you're one of them people who are well on your way to being one if you continue to listen. But in moving forward, we get, we're like a horse with blinders on sometimes. We're going and achieving and selling and producing and snapping necks and cashing checks. And I mean, we're just going for it. And a lot of times that can hurt us because we don't realize that we've got some remorse that's come along here that we need to pay a little better attention to long enough to realize, identify what they are, and shake them off. And so today, if you're listening to the podcast, listen, audit your circle, look at your life, protect your culture, protect your environment. Understand, again, that if you're hanging around 5 rich people, you're going to be the 6th one. Just give it some time. Be persistent consistency. But make sure you don't have any parasites attached to your life. And understand that your network does determine your net worth. There's a reason that there's country clubs in cities, okay? The reason there is because successful people that have achieved and earned, they like to be able to go to a place and have some solace where everybody's somewhat like-minded. Everybody's got couth and got some culture, and can sit around and be on the same level. We've got a producer that has risen to the top as a leader in our company, manager, and he lived in another city. I won't call the name of the city, real small town. But he ended up moving here to be closer to us, moved to Valdosta a couple of years ago. But he moved because he found he lived where he was at. Even his close friends and the people that he'd known before he started making a lot of money, becoming more successful, he didn't change. He was still he'd call them, invite them over. Let's go fishing. Let's go to dinner. Come over here and let's cook out. Let's watch a ball game. And as more and more as time went on and he became more and more successful, these people would always have a reason to not go eat with him or hang out with him, or, it was like they was trying to avoid him. He's still trying to have, the same type of relationship. But as he grew, he outgrew them friends, and it got to the point he was a lonely one-man band over there in town by himself. And he said, man, I guess I'm going to have to move over there with y'all and get closer to y'all because I'm an island to myself out here now. And success and achievement a lot of times will do that. It'll cause a divide because people are intimidated. Or people think, oh, he's too good now. He makes all this money. Oh, he used to drive a Ford Ranger. Now he drives a BMW or whatever your deal is. I mean, you know how people are. People's going to be people. But your network does determine your net worth. And there's a reason that rich and wealthy people hang together because, I can't sit around and talk with just everybody about my trip to Iceland or my trip to the Maldives or my new Porsche that's on order or my new Rolex or whatever your thing is, okay? You piss a lot of people off that are not willing to do the work to get to that place in life. You can't have light communication and conversation. So networks are important, and that's just the reality. That's the fact of the matter. They're important. And the most successful and wealthy people build networks, and everyone else just looks for work. So you got to decide, are you a person that's trying to build a network so you can be rich and wealthy, or are you going to be one of the ones that's always just walking around looking for work?
That's right. And don't forget too, like with that story you shared about the sharks and remorse, take inventory of yourself, ask yourself, am I a shark? Or maybe you're that person, you attach yourself to other people because you don't have enough confidence in yourself, or you don't, you don't think you could ever be that. And you got to change your mindset. There's a lot of people in life that want to go with you, but they don't want to grow with you. And so find those people. LeBron James is just a great picture of this. He's got two high school friends of his that as he got more successful, he brought them on, hired them, put them in business with him, and they have grown with him and become successful. And his success is not just based on him, but it's based on the fact that these guys came that he played high school basketball with or high school football with. These guys came, didn't just attach themselves with him, but came and brought something to the table, and they've grown with him. And a lot of the commercial deals and the apparel deals and different things that he's done and has gotten in his career has been put together by these friends because they were willing to say, look, we know you're going somewhere. We want to go with you, but we don't just want to go along for the ride. We want to bring something to the table. Listen, you sit over here, we'll drive from time to time. We don't want to just go with you. We want to grow with you. Those are the people you want to surround yourself with in life. Don't forget, go to our website, aegisresourcegroup.com. Look at the link that says gear and pick you up one of these White Buffalo shirts. You'll love them. Get that mentality to White Buffalo in your life. You know, I'm not going to try to be just like everybody else. I'm going to be different. I'm going to stand out. I'm going to think differently. I'm going to find ways to do things differently. I'm going to think out of the box. I'm going to get out of the box. Like Justin said earlier, the society puts us in a box. We got to figure out how to get out of that box and do things different and, you know, not march to the beat of the same old drum that everybody else is doing. Hope this has helped you in some kind of way. We'll be back next week for another episode of Separation Nation.